Good morning. This is Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by United legend Paul Parker to talk over another eventful week at the club. How are you doing, Paul? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much, Wayne.
Good. And yes, if you are watching the YouTube version, you are also noticing the presence of another legend, not on the pitch, but off the pitch, Paddy Barclay. How are you doing, Paddy? You all right?
I'm very well, thanks. But I did actually play. It would be a lie to say that I ever reached the standard of Paul Parker, or even to reach the standard of his toenails. But I did play. I did play for the Guardian in Manchester many years ago. It was bloody awful. But anyway.
As I say, a legend off the pitch rather than on it, for sure.
Yes.
If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to get your questions and comments in. If you're watching the replay, say hello. Do feel free to comment. We do reply. If you're listening back on the audio podcast, be sure to give us a subscription and review on the platform you're listening on. Before we kick off, I'm just going to give a quick plug for my book that's out this week, Duncan Edwards' Eternal Biography. It's out on Thursday. Really made up with all the advanced sort of feedback so far. So and everyone who's supporting it, really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience while I continue to plug it. That's the work of an independent author. You got to keep doing that. All right, so let's talk about Manchester United. Paddy, I'll come to you first. United they won against Leeds. They drew against them in the midweek, having come from 2-0 down and controlled the game in a roundabout way yesterday. I want to really come to you because it's been a while since I've talked to you. I want to get your opinion. For a little while yesterday, United were second after winning the game, albeit the other teams have got games in hand over them. So I still don't know if it's a false position, but it's a very strong position for United to be in. How do you assess the overall job done by Erik ten Hag so far?
Very good indeed. I mean, I did fear that the overall sort of culture in the dressing room and the training ground at Manchester United would might defeat him the way it defeated, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Moyes, Solskjaer and everybody else. But it looks like the club's got it right. Certainly on the field now, I think Ten Hag's done a tremendous job. And what is even more encouraging from the Manchester United point of view is that as Manchester United make progress, several of the clubs with whom they would seek to compete, Manchester City, Chelsea, are going through becalmed periods, shall we say. Liverpool, perhaps most dramatically, second most dramatically to Man City. All of these clubs, with the possible exception of, the definite exception of Newcastle United, are going through dodgy periods, which makes it, possible that the old new order will return, that Manchester United will once again within a year be where they want to be. It's very encouraging. I don't, looking at it from outside, you probably don't want to tempt fate, and maybe Paul will feel the same, that, not to count chickens, fill in cliche of choice. But I can definitely see that Manchester United are heading back to where everybody connected with the club would want them to be.
Yeah, I'm interested in your opinion on this, to be fair, because between us, how much we've analysed and covered the Busby to the current era in writing and podcasts and everything like that. Results are one thing. What do you think about the level of performance? Is it starting to look like a Manchester United team?
Is it? Do you want me to talk? Yeah, sorry, I beg your pardon. I don't think so. No, I don't think the squad's strong enough. I think Ten Hag made remarks about that in the build-up. Between the two Leeds games, or perhaps before the first one. That the squad's nowhere near where they would want it to be. I mean, bear in mind, Manchester United want to be the best club in the world. So, and frankly, most of the players in that squad are not of that standard. So they need to start getting recruitment right. That's absolutely fundamental. The coaching, to me, now Paul, Barca is much better equipped to look at the technicality, but to me, the coaching looks good. There's definitely a zip about it that there wasn't before. Most obvious in the individual performances, magnificent individual performances of Marcus Rashford, but also in others. For me, Wan-Bissaka is the player that they bought rather than the player that appeared to be a bit of an imposter. So it's definitely it looks to be getting right. It's the whole culture that needs to change, and in particular the recruitment policies, which were a disaster, an absolute disaster, a disgrace under Woodward, in my opinion.
Yeah, strong words, and it's hard to disagree with that. Paul, on a general, Paddy's talking on a general aspect. I want to talk about Leeds. Obviously, it's been a little bit difficult to ascertain, where United are in terms of like an overall standing position, because obviously they got Eriksen injured, Casemiro's been out suspended, and there's this whole rotation aspect. Leeds, the two games were absolutely chaotic, really. They sort of got to grips with it at some point on Wednesday night, but against them yesterday was a bit frustrating in the second half in particular, because, did United ever have control of it? Did they ever lose control of it? I'm not sure what to make from it, because you look at it and you say, all right, for 25 minutes of that second half yesterday, it seemed like what United were doing were playing from the back. Everyone was passing to Maguire, and then it was going backwards and forwards to Maguire, and the only way that passage of play stopped was when Maguire hit a long crossfield pass, give the ball to Leeds, only to start that entire process again. Now, they didn't cut us open that many times. I'm not saying that was a game plan or a good game plan, but it did slow the game down and took some of that sting out of it that we saw on Wednesday night, the frenetic energy of it. And then Ten Hag makes the necessary changes that change the game and win it for us in the last 20 minutes. So in one respect, I'm looking at it thinking that's kind of genius game management. But when I'm watching it, but I can see your face. When I'm watching it, I'm definitely not thinking that. So I'm just wondering, United win 2-0. If you watch the highlights on a sort of 6-minute little cut thing, you've seen United with some good chances and they've won the game. But what did you make of it yesterday?
You've done well with 6 minutes, by the way, to be perfectly honest, Wayne. First thing when I watched, I started talking after the first couple of minutes, and I think it happened. I thought the pitch was very slow. It seemed very lush, the pitch, and especially United, and the way they were playing, it showed, because there was a few short passes. They couldn't get the weight of the pass. You think yourself, that would tell you not to actually to overpass.
Yeah.
But they kept doing it. Harry Maguire kept running with the ball. You don't run with the ball when the pitch is lush like that, not in your defensive areas. I think everyone knew when Harry Maguire started that United were going to sit deeper, and all of a sudden United got back to playing how they were when he was playing regularly. Very slow, over deliberate, if there is such a phrase. It was ponderous. It was watching. It was terrible. And you could see that Luke Shaw tried to move the ball quick as possible, but he kept slowing it down. It only got better when Martinez come on. As soon as he come on, you could see the ball just went bang, and just everything happened. And when United were struggling, to be perfectly honest. Leeds had worked so hard. They put everything into it because we know it's their cup final. And I'm looking now straight away. I'm kind of their work, and I kind of look at the bench, think to myself, how can he change it? I knew what the answer was. He can't change it offensively because there wasn't too much he could trust, and maybe Garnacho was the only one he could really bring on. The rest of it, there was no guarantees. So what does he do? He makes a change at the back as well. And that helped steady it. And then you saw that everything shifted and everything took shape the moment he made that change in the back line, to be perfectly honest. And as initially, if you'd have said to me 7 weeks ago, about right back, Dalot was going to be right back. But I look at it now, and as Patrick just bit on a little bit, is that Wan-Bissaka has come back. He is the player that Manchester United got for near 50 million from Crystal Palace. His game has improved so much, and I think that is, which is incredible. I'm going to say this, but I think everyone has said it, and I think it was mentioned by a departing player. He said that when he went to United, he never got coached. I think now Wan-Bissaka's been coached. People have talked to him about his positions. People have talked to him about when he's on the ball, to the way he was trying to play on the ball, to the way he's playing now. He's a 1 and 2 touch player. His body shape is Viv Anderson. Viv Anderson was control pass move, and Wan-Bissaka's playing that defensively. You don't see him on his backside so many times now. He's learnt a bit of patience. He knows he can get there, and he has done. His percentage on tackles must be about 99 out of 100.
Yeah.
But now he's virtually going 100 out of 100 because he's not diving in all the time. He's nicking balls off of people's toes and going forward rather than being on his backside. Not that he was always caught out. He was always decent at that. But he's just, everything about him has moved on. The team has got a structure. And I was a little bit worried when I saw that back four. I still think I had good reason to be on quite a few occasions, to be perfectly honest. But he stuck his neck out. He thought about the game on Thursday. He knew that he wanted both of these centre halves, his two best centre halves, prepared for that game. So he left them out. And in what everyone knows is a big, big game for Leeds United. So we needed to make sure that was right. And we have to say he got it right in the end. If it had been a 0-0 again, it would have been disappointing, but they'd have had a run still going. Leeds wouldn't have beaten Manchester United as they're desperate to. But he got it right, working with bare bones, because I think if you look at it, Manchester United have got, if you look at them as a squad, really, they're playing with a squad of 14 players?
Yeah.
You could put your hand in your heart and say, if that was a fault, you couldn't really go much better. But the problem is when you're the only side on four fronts at this moment in time, I don't know how it has really turned round, because back when when I was playing, we had squads of 16 players guaranteed. If you were starting to go for any more, everyone would question you was called greedy and you had too much money. But now, if you haven't got 30 players, there's something wrong. Your squad's not good enough. You need a bigger squad. Bigger squad means more. There's more potential of players knocking on the manager's door, and you get more happiness out of a smaller squad. And I think you'll find you get players who'll dig in more, because especially when you're winning, because they want to play in winning teams. And it's amazing how not so many injuries you get now as well. There's always the one player at United who does get injuries, but the rest of them want to play every single game. And there isn't many better places to be as being in the winning team than Manchester United, because the vibe is incredible. Those players, when they left that ground yesterday, would have absolutely just had a big smile in their face, because that is a big win for them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think Martinez, by the way, is suspended on Thursday, so I think that's the reason why I actually played Shaw from the start. But
you're right, yeah.
But, when he made the change and put Shaw wide and put Martinez on, and he brings Garnacho on, puts Rashford up top and puts Weghorst as a number 10, it strangely works. It's United are like a knife through butter for the last sort of 10 minutes. Rashford scores a great goal, magnificent header. Garnacho puts the afterburners on, gets beyond the fullback and scores a fantastic finish. And then Weghorst has a goal disallowed for offside. Now, all right, we've won the game. I'm happy with that, and we don't need to analyse that too much, because I think you've both done it pretty well there. But I do want to talk about this goal that's disallowed for offside. I don't want to be too grumpy about it, but we've talked about refereeing decisions over the last week or 2 weeks, really. It's disallowed for offside, but Maguire doesn't touch the ball. The ball, when it comes over, it's the Leeds player's hand and then bounces to Weghorst. So the goal's given as offside on the basis that the ball has moved towards Weghorst, but it's been moved by the Leeds players. And I'm not saying that's a penalty, but the goal's got to stand. Paul, people aren't talking about it because United won 2-0, but that was just one in a litany of poor decisions again over the weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I think was I 16, 17 years in football, playing football, and then there was times as a kid, and at this moment in time, I'm really struggling with the rules. Really, really struggling. We brought a system in which has opened the rules up a little bit more. There's more words added to it, and every time you listen to a referee, you might it's like doctors will protect doctors and referees will protect other referees. Now, could they say that because of his starting position that he was he was affecting the goalkeeper by being in that offside position? So even if the ball didn't come off Harry Maguire, he was offside. But there'd be some reason for it. There'd be no apology. No one would look for it, as you said, because United won the game. But if it is proven that they got that wrong, they still should be. They should be apologising for that. It's as simple as that. So I don't know how to go at it. I mean, I was at West Ham at the weekend, and there was a one at the end with Souček. Now I was sitting there, and I was sitting next to Scott Minto, and both of us thought it was handball.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't see it. You know what it's like from there anyway. You need everybody in the media should be given binoculars. They should hand them out binoculars sometimes. But I was just looking at it, and I should have realised how quick that ball bounced off of him. And then all of a sudden you see it, and it comes off of his knee. And that's the fine margins, and we're scrutinising every little bit. Human error, we accepted human error to a point because we all make mistakes. But now all these tools are all available. You expect it to be like it is with American football, what it's like with cricket, and what's it like with rugby, where there is rarely mistakes. But because football is so subjective, there's always going to be issues all the time. It's never going to change. I was one of those idiots who thought if they bring in all this VAR, it's going to take away the pub chat after a game because everything's going to be 100% correct. It's added to it. It's incredible. I'm sure VAR has caused more fights in pubs and clubs everywhere.
Paddy, let me ask you about that. As a writer, you're a writer and you're analysing the game.
Used to be.
Well, yeah, but I'm putting you in the position. You're in your old fabled position. You're there. You're looking at it, and many people have advocated for the change, for the introduction of video technology. And I'm not discussing the right or wrong of that, but the principle of it, like Paul said, was to reduce the margin for error and eliminate the controversy. It's not only added to controversy, it's every single week there's a redefinition of what the rules are. It's getting ridiculous, isn't it?
Yes, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, when Paul said, I don't know what the rules are anymore, I think, we're all agreed on that, absolutely 100%. But that's because there isn't a rule book. The game is being refereed on the basis of, what referees have cooked up in smoke-filled rooms. We're having to cope with all these phrases like unnatural position. It's not in the rule book. So why are referees using all these concepts to make decisions that nobody can verify, nobody can even judge, except, on the basis of phrases that we have to divine from referees after the game? When the laws of the game were written, of course, they were interpreted, not every contact was a foul and so on, but we kind of understood. Now, refereeing is a sort of mystical exercise into which we are not really allowed to take part until afterwards somebody explains that there's some rule book that was hatched up in a private meeting. All referees' meetings should be held on television or with television cameras there in order that we may take part in it, because at the moment we're just not. And consequently, we get these preposterous decisions. You mentioned the Souček one at the West Ham game. Now, if we're going to have VAR, and I'm not against VAR, what I'm against is the stupid way it's being operated. It's utterly ridiculous. You know, a goal can't take place after an accidental handball. Why not? Why not? What's that got to do with VAR? It's just somebody thinking of something because they've got a spare minute. It's absolutely nonsensical. It's nothing to do with football. Absolutely nothing to do with football. If there's an accidental handball in any other situation other than a goal, it's just ignored. But now, because somebody's got nothing else to do, it has to be a reason for disallowing a goal. And the other thing I can't understand is why people who are involved in refereeing and lawmaking are always so negative. They're always looking for reasons to chalk off a goal. Nobody's looking, as they did 20 years ago when people talk about Sepp Blatter. Sepp Blatter knew more about football than all the administrators put together now, because Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini brought in a rule: if there's doubt, it's a goal.
Yeah,
and that's what we all want. We all want to see goals. We don't want to see lines and somebody getting a goal chalked off because of a bootlace.
Yeah.
So, or an accident, you know, a handball by an irrelevant player, like you mentioned yesterday. Sorry.
No, I completely agree.
I just want the bloody game back, you know. I just want something, or rewrite the rule book if you like, but at least let us know where we stand.
Yeah, and don't change it every game, week by week. Do you know?
That's the key. That's the key,
Yeah.
Wayne. Yes.
Yeah. T2 says Martinez strikes the ball so cleanly, it made a big difference without the composure of Casemiro and Eriksen. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be hoping to watch Leeds play United again without midfielders, because good grief, that was an endurance test of 180 minutes. It might well be, Paul, an endurance test to watch us play Barcelona without midfielders as well. Although we'll have at least Casemiro back. They won 1-0 at Villarreal yesterday with Pedri scoring. It established an 11-point lead for them in La Liga. But if you look at the numbers, they've conceded just 7 goals in 21 games. De Jong and Pedri in the middle of the park are bossing things. You got Gavi and Lewandowski in sensational form. I think a lot of United fans are looking at this not as a free hit, but kind of like more, there's less pressure on it because of where United are in the league and the position that they've got, and the perception that being eliminated from the Europa League gives us an easier run in the league. And, you know, with the smaller squad, they should be able to handle that run in the league a little bit better, therefore strengthening the Champions League qualification position in that route rather than going down the Barcelona Europa League route. I'm not saying that it's one you can afford to lose, but it is at least one you can look at it and say, this is a good test for Ten Hag rather than catastrophizing over what the potential result might be.
Yes. For me, I look at this game, and it seems for some reason Barcelona have got stronger and stronger as it's gone on.
Yeah.
No different to United, to be fair. Both the sides were a bit like that. Barcelona especially, because they put all their eggs into one basket for the Champions League and fell out of bed badly, but maybe coming out of it has helped them. It's all of a sudden they've steadied the ship. They're incredible. I mean, what they've gone and done over Real Madrid, because Real Madrid were, last season head and shoulders above Barcelona. So Xavi's come back and he's done it. He's done absolutely incredible what he's done. There was a method, maybe in the madness of him going away, working the Middle East and coming back, because everything it seems him as a player, he's brought there as a coach now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a fantastic fixture. Everyone is looking forward to this game. Everybody will be watching this game. Football people are just watching these two teams, and it tells you the strength of both these sides and how they're foreseen all over the world. But it's one of them at the moment. It's a really difficult one to call for me, this game, and how they're going to go about it, how Ten Hag is going to go about this game, especially with the likes of an Eriksen there, who we would love to be in that midfield. I mean, I think everyone would really, because the midfield is going to be so much guile, industry, improvisation. It's going to be in there. It's going to be fantastic to watch. I wish I was going to be there for the second leg, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But I won't be. I suppose even if I wanted to now, I couldn't get a ticket. So, so it is a game. It's a game that everybody's going to want to play in. So the most important thing now is that they go into this game and everyone's prepared, and they just go there and they just come back with some form of result. Really,
Yeah.
that's the best way to look at it. I mean, there's no more talking about away goals or anything, which I don't know if it's a positive or negative, but you just got to give yourself the best chance of winning. That's all they can do, really. There's not a lot else to say about it. United are been in great form, even without Casemiro. The last two games they've got through them, so that's the most important thing. They've got a win behind them. They've got a win and a draw behind them. It's just a shame they couldn't get a performance behind them. But I think without Casemiro at this moment in time in your team, we're not going to go and see any kind of decent performances, because the midfield without Casemiro is like the midfield of last season and previous seasons, lacking a lot of creativity, ideas, and discipline, really.
Yeah. So he's in on Thursday. He's been wrapped up in cotton wool because of the suspension. Obviously, you're in a position, Paul, where not I don't know if this is a good or bad memory, but when you played at the Nou Camp for United, no. Listen, I'm getting there.
I don't know what I'm doing now. I've got an earplug in that one.
Listening more intently. Right. So when you were preparing to play at the Nou Camp for United, you did it without, there was already the foreigner rule, so you knew that players weren't going to be available. Cantona was suspended. 115,000, which is the biggest attendance that United have ever played in front of in a competitive game. So I guess what I'm asking is, United have known that Martinez isn't going to play. They've known that for the entirety of the preparation of this game. They've known for a couple of weeks that Eriksen's not going to be a part of it. How does it change your mentality? So you're obviously one of the players who is going to be playing. How does it change your mentality in the way that you approach that game?
Well, I think the last two games come into it. So I think as a player, first and foremost, especially if you're a defensive player, you'll be so pleased that Casemiro's back.
Yeah,
you'll be so pleased about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you'll be quite confident in the sense of that Luke Shaw will go on that left side, and Luke Shaw has done incredibly when he's gone in there. In certain ways, I think he's finding it more enjoyable and comfortable playing there, because the way he wants to play now, it is suiting him. And as he goes on in his career, I'm quite sure that's where he's going to end up, because given Luke Shaw and his body shape, he's not going to want to keep going up and down that line too often. But I always keep saying, even when I do co-commentaries, I always say, when I see sides and they're missing key players, I would have said it on Wednesday night, is that people just think players get on with it, but they don't. You're human. So when you see, I'll say it. So all of a sudden I see that one game going out, we haven't got a Brian Robson, we haven't got a Sparky up front, we're missing a Ryan Giggs, and we're going into a big game, and then you look at it, who's coming in, you kind of go, and when you're going through that time as I was, and you were just treading and stamping people in, and sometimes letting them back up for air, you kind of going, in your mind you're going, we're missing something here. We're missing something. It ain't going to be right. We need to start well. And the moment things go wrong, all of a sudden that inner self will suddenly go, there's no way back because we're missing him. We're missing him. And that happens. Anybody no player, modern day player, is going to admit that now. They're not going to say that at this moment in time. But you speak to anybody who's done their time, they will come out and say it. They'll look at people, because we all respect great players, and that's why the likes of Robbo and the Roy and the Eric, when any player who's played with them talks about them, they talk about them up there. There's no bitterness or any jealousy, because you can't be of great players like that, and the difference they made for a team. I always tell people that when I joined United, every time I walked out the tunnel and Robbo was walking out in front, I never felt like I was going to lose. But then you wonder what you think about, what's the other team thinking when they walk out the tunnel and they see Robbo and they see Sparky coming out at that time. saying that, I've been there and done that, and when I come out Old Trafford and I've looked at that one, and yeah, all you want to do is not give away a corner inside the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because if you do, you suddenly feel that it's not going to go right. So it is a difficult one, but I just think the position they're in, there'll be a lot of belief there, especially with Casemiro coming back after their last 2 games.
Yeah.
The defensive players are going to love it because they know they can give a ball to a player who will take the stress off of them how they want to play out the back. And just in the attacking role, I'm sure Can he play Vehicles? Can he play in Europa? He can play. Well, he's going to enjoy it because what he does is Casemiro bounces the ball off of him, and that's what he does, and that's what United were missing with Ronaldo up front, because Ronaldo, as much as he was playing in a centre forward role, he wasn't a centre forward. He couldn't bounce the ball off of him because it wasn't him. He wanted to try and do a trick and spend a bit more. He knows his strength. He controls pass and he spins.
Yeah.
He knows he's never going to run behind, but he spins. And the reason why he spins is so he takes someone with him to create space and maybe someone to creep forward 5 yards. And that's why and sorry, I've diversed a bit, but Ten Hag brought him in to create space for other people. He wanted someone who's going to be unselfish, create space, and just do a bit of hard graft across the line. Even the slight, millionth of a second of a team playing the ball forward can help out your defenders and save the midfield having to turn around and run towards their own goal. And that's why he brought him in.
What you just said, Paul, about Weghorst, and I was astonished because I saw him play for, I think, was it Norwich or someone?
Burnley.
Burnley, was it?
Yeah,
Burnley, and he played in Holland as well, and I couldn't see anything. And I thought, what, Man United? And yet that tweak has made a big difference to Manchester United, as for the reasons that Paul's just explained. And I think, is it true, Paul, that when a manager does something clever like that, and I don't suppose many of the other players in the squad expected Weghorst to be an asset to the team in the way he is. They maybe thought he was there for numbers, for the bench or something like that. And he's made such a difference. When players see a manager do a little tweak like that and think, I'm going to listen to this bloke. He knows football. Is that kind of thing? Does that kind of thing make a difference to a dressing room?
Oh, without a doubt. First of all, the moment it got whispered around what he was going to do, if there was 10 players in that dressing room, 7 of them would have just said all these words going, what?
Yeah.
When he played for Burnley, what about that? God, they would have been shaking their heads, really? But there'd have been some, the clever ones, the ones who watch a bit of football, they'll remember what he done during the World Cup.
Yeah.
And they'll think, he's quite clever, him.
Yeah.
But then they would have thought they would have already been trusting their manager and what he's done.
Yeah.
Already. So what he's done, Ten Hag, is that he's brought in players. Everyone bought into those players he's brought in because performances and results done that. So whoever he brings in now, everyone is going to be now thinking, hold on a minute, I'm going to respect this decision.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. So when I get people come up to me, they talk about United and they go, that vehicle, so he's poor. People are looking for a Mark Hughes. They're suddenly thinking, well, Ronaldo could do that and could do that. Yes, he could do. He could do that to a point, but the problem is he couldn't do what the manager wanted now in the way he wants to play now with the players he's got around him. Now, if he was to be able to, in the summer, go out and bring in maybe 4 players, he would be bringing in 4 players who could play in the first team.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be bringing in players to fit into to work in a squad, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Because the ones, so he's got to be bringing in players to threaten the players in there, because certain players have reacted to it. Luke Shaw is the biggest reaction.
Yeah.
Because he saw him coming, Malacia, and he thought, wow, blimmin' hell. And he went, oh. And now Malacia, when he comes in, he does a good job, but Luke Shaw has to start before him. That was positive.
Yeah.
So I just think at this moment in time, United are in a really good position with the right man, and he's not a head coach. He's an actual manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
For sure.
manages.
Yeah.
United. Every club's having his coaches and that, and you see all these. You hear all these little stories and that. The stories that are coming out of United, Patrick, was something I've never known before. I couldn't believe what was going on, and it was coming through from sneaky players. Players who are telling their best mates or members of their families, maybe I'll tell them this and maybe get them just to pull it out and all this kind of social
Yeah.
media jargon, doing that.
Yeah.
Some of them, maybe someone might have done it, maybe one of them by accident, someone trusted let them down, but that's the way things go. It doesn't happen it's not happening anymore. And the main reason why it's not happening is because Manchester United are winning games of football. There's no excuses. No one can make any excuse at the moment in time. No one can moan about anything or knock on the manager's door because they're winning games and they've been winning them well. And that stops all the little sneaks. The bitter ones in the dressing room. You can have a whinge up when you're playing rubbish and not winning games, and everyone goes, yeah, you're right. The moment everything's like that, going fine, those people start whinging, and maybe one of the head boys there turn around and gives them a look.
Yeah.
And they know to shut up. And I've seen that happen in that Manchester United dressing room when a captain told a player in front of all of us to behave himself, otherwise he'll make sure and he'll do him in, because he didn't want that player he didn't want that player to sour the barrel that was there. And that's the difference. Winning games of football makes an incredible difference in the dressing room.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly before we close off, Gemwell says, I think Gemwell, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, asked, was it at the start of the second half where Vegas went to the number 10? I think it was the 70 minutes when they made the changes, but I think that's when Ten Hag made the substitutes. That's when he moved, when he put Garnacho on, took Sancho off and moved Bruno around. One very last point, Paddy, before we end, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Barcelona game for United. Is it critical that they win? Is it more an interest on how far they've come?
I was listening to the way that you're sort of approaching it, and it's easy for me to say, but I don't think there's any danger to the top four, to Manchester United finishing in the top four. Not particularly because I don't think it's possible that United could have a mini slump in form between now and the end of the season. Of course, that can happen to any team, but because of the inconsistent form of their competitors, apart from Newcastle, obviously, and Manchester City, perhaps. I think Manchester United will finish top of in the top four. Definitely, I would bet my not my reputation. I bet something valuable on it. I bet a quid. But I honestly, I think treat this game as part of Manchester United's history. When Manchester United play Barcelona, don't play games with it. Throw everything into it. Because, as you say, the world will be watching. I mean, I can show you my diary here. It's got a star next to that game, and it's had a star next to it for weeks. Because although I'm not a Barcelona supporter or a Manchester United supporter, when that game takes place, I have to watch it. And so I think, all tactical, all thoughts about what to do about the game. Should you play your full team? Of course you do. And you were saying Casemiro's being kept in cotton wool, of course, because of this game, because of his knowledge of Barcelona. I think he'll want to play. I mean, he's a great professional. I mean, but he'll want to play even 10% above 100% in this game because it's Barcelona. So I think absolutely, because normally, I showed you the asterisk next to this game in my diary. Normally it's only Dundee games that I put an asterisk next to. So it's that big. It's bigger than a Dundee game. No, so joking apart, it's absolutely. Will United win overall? I noticed you plugged your book, Wayne. Paul's put out come help me with a ticket for the second leg. Very clever, that. Very clever.
It wasn't intentional, but trust me.
But that's how important it is. I mean, really. And do I think Manchester United? I think Manchester United will respect Barcelona because of the very consistent league form, which Paul, what's it, 11 points now? I didn't know that. I think Barcelona will be scared of Manchester United's pace up front, in particular Rashford. So I think Manchester United over 2 legs will win this.
Oh, that's a very bold prediction. Yeah, we're going to be looking forward to that for sure. I've got a ticket for the away leg, Paul, and I'd love the home leg, I should say, not away. Fortunately, not travelling to Spain. If I could give it you, I would. And I know off air, you'll probably twist my arm to do that.
Yeah, okay, Pinocchio.
Yeah. I don't think I'll be giving that one up. But cheers for the guys today for their time. If you've enjoyed watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to comment after the show. We still reply to the comments. If you're watching the replay, do that, please. And if you're listening back on the audio podcast, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review on the platform you're listening on. Thanks a lot, guys. Until next week, stay safe, stay well. Thanks for listening and watching.